What's up, Rebecca?
Hey, Dr. Delony, I love your show. Thank you so much for taking my call.
I love you, so I'm glad that I made that weird. I'm sorry. Dang. I got all weird. I'm grateful that you called. How about that? I probably do love you. You're probably pretty wonderful, huh?
I am pretty wonderful.
All right, good job.
I have a unique problem that I need help with.
All right, bring it.
So about 6 years ago, my husband gave me an Ancestry.com DNA kit as a Christmas present.
Crap. What happened?
Well, I was just trying to figure out what county from Ireland I was from, and I ended up discovering that my daddy was not my daddy.
You are not the father.
That's right.
Did you find out who the father was?
I certainly did. After a lot of investigation, I determined that my biological father was the parish priest that my mother had had a very brief affair with just before marrying my daddy.
Yeah, it doesn't take a very long affair.
No, it doesn't. They were only together about 2 months tops. And then they decided mutually to split. And, he moved on with his life, and he, to this day, is a priest, an active priest in ministry. And he's nearing retirement. I mean, he's nearly 80 years old. My mom is in her 80s, too.
Do y'all have contact? Do y'all talk?
Absolutely. We talk frequently, and I've met him one time. And he's a wonderful man. And
No, he's not. 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 He's not.
Well, he didn't know about me until I ambushed him. So my mom never told him about me.
When did you ambush him?
A few years ago, so about 5 years ago.
And he's only seen you one time?
Yeah.
And he's continued on serving people under the illusion that he's something that he is not?
He is. He's
okay.
Still an active priest.
That's tough for me. That's tough for me.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I want to give you a little bit more context so you can kind of help me.
Okay. Yeah. Before I just start judging everybody and getting all frustrated, I have a thing. If you take a job in a public setting, more importantly, if you take a job as a leader of a church, any denomination, you have to take the responsibility that people are watching you and they follow you. That's the job. And there's a ton of power in that. And if you are not honest with it, or if you abuse it, or if you, fair or not, a priest or a pastor that cheats on his spouse, violates his code of ethics, violates the things he teaches on a regular basis, or she teaches on a regular basis, it carries more weight. It's more destructive because it can take down a whole group of people.
Oh yeah,
right.
It's very destructive.
So I hold them to a higher standard, and I just get super enraged because then they do these gnarly little things where they twist it around, and somehow this has become your fault, hasn't it?
Well,
or your job is to protect him, right, in his image.
No, I don't feel that obligation. Not to the degree that I would, if I was much younger and literally needed support from him, which I don't. I'm 44 years old. I found out about this when I was 38, and so did he. He found out about it, just 5 years ago. And when I first found out, I definitely went to a therapist, and we worked through the initial stages of it in how to contact him and setting up the meeting. And I've been through all of that. And it's been an emotional roller coaster. Now the dips and the drops are further apart. But it's starting to bubble up for me again for one particular reason. So when I was a toddler, and this big corrosive secret was like a cancer in my family, and of course I didn't know, and my parents orchestrated this cover-up. Unfortunately, one of my older brothers stumbled across this information as a teenager, and that brick was too heavy for him. And he ended up making the choice to cut ties with our family. Of course, I didn't understand or know why that was happening when I was just a little kid, but the estrangement continues to this day. And it's been, I was 11 years old the last time I saw him. The reason it's coming up now is because my 16-year-old son is getting ready to look at colleges, and he's going to be, leaving home. And like you always say, I've put some kind of GPS pin on that moment, and I equate going off to college with never seeing someone again. And so I need to figure out at this point, my husband and I want to tell our kids, this is the truth. This is a part of me. This is what we found out. But I'm very mindful about how that will affect their development and their ability to deal with it.
Okay. So what I'm going to tell you is it has to be laid on a foundation of you're an extraordinary woman. Like, I can tell you've put the work in, and I could peel that back for the listener, but you've put the work in, haven't you?
I absolutely have. I've been on a journey, and I'm still on the journey.
But I need you to hear what I'm gonna say back to you some of the things you've said to me, and I want you to understand what you're carrying around, because I think you're right. You have a GPS pin that's going off, but it's in a different place than you think it is.
Okay.
Your brother did not leave because of you. Period. Your brother did not cut ties with the family because of something you did. And you've been hanging on to that your whole life. Okay?
Right.
Fair?
Yeah, it's fair. It's like being infected with something, but not realizing what the diagnosis is until you're 38.
It just feels like the people who are closest to you lied to you and built the whole house of straw on the foundation of sand. Then the water came in.
Yeah, the water came in. No one could have predicted that, 40 years later, you could order a kit online for $69.
That's right.
And everything just unfolds.
Always come out. And so I think your GPS pin is not in your son leaving. That's going to be weird. My son's going to high school, and already I just start crying. I'm driving down the road. It's so absurd. It's so absurd. I spent 20 years with dads on move-in day at a university. Dads, these big burly dudes hugging me in the hallway, crying. Ah! And I'd be like, oh my gosh, get over yourself. Another thought of my son being in high school, I get it. Part of that transition is going to be natural. You're looking at colleges, like your son's about to go away, right? I mean, and he's not going to go away forever, but he's about to transition. I think your GPS pin is, oh crap, I'm repeating this cycle because I'm keeping secrets too.
Yes, that is my main concern. I don't want to pass this brick on to the third generation.
Yes, but listen, you are. I'm going to go back to something I said earlier, and I want you to metabolize this over the next few weeks. You are still trying to figure out how you can make this all okay.
Mm.
And what happened to you, the way you found out, something was done to you. You are a victim of two parents who lied to you. And I'm going to go further to say 5 years ago, this man found out he has a daughter, and he's only seen her once. He's not a good man. He's a coward. And I would say that if he was sitting right in front of me. Because when you find out you have a daughter, your world stops and she becomes your world. And his didn't. His charade continued. And you have been trying to make it all okay.
Right.
And it's not your job. So you are not going to be them when you tell your son what happened to you. So I don't want you to equate what happened, what you felt, your whole world ended up disintegrated. That won't happen to your son when you tell him the truth.
Okay.
You can frame it as Mimi and Papa are evil liars. You can do that. I wouldn't do that.
Right. I mean, I can't because they're grandparents, not my priest father, but their grandparents who they've known for their whole lives. I mean, they're extremely involved,
Right.
loving grandparents.
And I think I'm not going to give them a pass on what they did. I'm not going to give them a pass on the context.
Right.
And 40 years ago, the world was different. Right?
Right.
It's not a pass. What happened to you is wrong.
Yeah.
But that does provide some context for when you tell this to your 16-year-old.
And I have a 12-year-old, so
12-year-old's
the timing of it
12-year-old's
is
probably
what
not
we're
ready.
worried about.
12-year-old's probably not ready. If 12-year-old is in a position where if he asks, I will disclose limited information. So what am I saying here? 16-year-old, I would probably, before y'all go look at colleges, you and only you take him out and say, there's a family secret I found out about several years ago, and you're old enough now, I'm going to bring you in on it.
Okay.
And before we go, I love my mom. I love my dad. And then I did this 23. To be honest with them.
Yeah.
And say it messed up my whole world. And it doesn't change the fact that my stepdad was a pretty amazing guy and stepped into a gap and raised me and was awesome. And he's a great granddad to you.
Right.
It also doesn't change the fact that my mother did something 40 years ago in a very different sociocultural context, and she made a call.
Yeah.
And here we are. Right?
Right.
And then exhale. Right? But he at some point he's going to want to meet his granddad.
Yeah, and logistically that's complicated.
I disagree. If it's with a coward, it is. If it's with somebody who's going to own up to their responsibilities and take responsibility for the family lineage they've put into the world.
Yeah.
It's not.
I mean, I do want to make it clear that based on, his letters and calls and texts to me, he cares for them, but, from afar. And I think he's willing to let me take the lead on when I bring them into the circle.
Hold on. Whoa. Are you talking about your birth dad?
Yeah.
Oh, my friend Rebecca. He doesn't get a vote on anything.
Okay.
0. You don't seek out permission for when the right moment to tell this story is.
Okay.
He cashed out his any rights to this story at all. You do what's best for the family that you are holding together.
Right.
He gets no say, 0, zilch. He cashed out. He walked away. And in his defense, he didn't know for 40 years. Now he does. He gets no votes, none, 0. Now, when it comes to your 12-year-old, I would, if the 12-year-old says, 12-year-olds have a weird way. 10 to 13-year-olds have a weird way of just dropping questions, and you're like, how did you know that? If he ever says you don't look anything like your dad, be like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of family stories that one day when you're older, I'll tell you. What do you mean? There's just a whole bunch of family stories. And what we're going to do is we're going to start leaving breadcrumbs so that when he's 16 and y'all start looking at colleges, you're going to take him out and say, remember that I told you there were some stories? Well, there's a big one. And that way you're not lying. No, he's we just look differently. And then you have to unwind a lie. You're not giving the full story because a 12-year-old can't absorb all that, but you're also laying a path for when this story comes true. And if he ever point blanks you, hey, I don't think stepdad is your actual dad. Well, yeah, you're right. Things were very, very different, but he's the man who raised me and he's the man who showed up. So I call him dad. And then we'll go from there when that day happens. It probably won't happen like that, but just in case your 16-year-old gets home and just starts spilling the beans, you may have to have a conversation earlier. What you don't want to do to your kids is the same thing that happened to you. You found out your dad wasn't your dad. You found out that the man who is your dad was in the dark for a long time. You found out your dad is just going to send texts and letters. He's not going to show up and grab his baby girl and squeeze her until she can't breathe and say, I love you and I'm so sorry and I miss you and we have 40 years to make up. I'm just going to text you. But underneath all that is two parents who for 40 years lied to you. And what you're not going to do is repeat that same cycle to your kids. You're not going to lie to your kids. And not lying to your kids doesn't mean telling your kids everything because they can't hold it all. I'm so sorry. Your job is not to hold these secrets in. Your job is not to protect this guy. Your job is to honor your kids and to honor you and your family. And I'm sorry this was done to you. And I'm sorry this is continuing in this way, where the thought it would even occur to you that this stranger who's dropped into your life suddenly gets to speak into how you parent your kids and what comes next. It's a heavy, heavy switch. I'm so sorry. Keep doing the hard work. You're an impressive, brave woman, as strong as they get. And it was an honor talking to you.